this week's deck tech, I ran for FNM this week. I ended up going 1 and 3, but it's a pretty good solid deck. It's just the store I went to was prepared for all things aggro, and it was kind of sad because it's built pretty well, and once you get it going, and if you get it going perfectly, it's like fast aggro. Your opponent can't do anything, and they're dead by the time they can play anything. But most people had stuff to just destroy my hand, or destroy my creatures, or just giant Courser crew fix to block it, so it didn't do that great. But I really like this deck a lot, and it's a red aggro deck, which is what I love playing. I did get it from, basically I just took it straight off of online from Arorsthrar. I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, more than likely, probably 100% sure butchering that. From tapped.net, and I'll leave a link to that in the comments below, or in the little drop down box below, so you can get to that full deck list. I did change, I think, 1 card in it, so that's it. But for the lands, it has 17 lands, all of which are red mountains, and they tap for red mana. They don't come into play tapped. You don't have to lose any life. You don't have to go and fetch anything. I like red mountains, especially in an aggro deck, and it works really, really well in this one. Our creature base, we have 4 copies of Akroan Crusader, 1 mana for a 1/1. It also has the heroic ability where if you trigger it, you get a 1/1 red soldier token with haste, so it can attack that turn that you trigger it, which is pretty awesome. So that's really cool. So 4 of those. Also has 4 copies of Firedrinker Satyr. It's a 2/1, and you can pump it for 2, cost 1 mana to play, and if it's dealt damage, you get dealt that much damage too. You have to take that. But, you know, normally they're not going to be blocking this guy, because you can pump them. So you can pump them for 2 mana, and you take 1 damage, but it's still pretty sweet to give them +1/+0 and kill whatever big thing they just put in front of it to block, which is nice. So 4 copies of that. 4 copies of Foundry, Street Denizen, 1 red mana for 1/1. It also gets +1/+0 until the end of turn for every red creature that has entered play since the beginning of turn on your side. So that's pretty awesome. And since all the creatures in here are red creatures, you're going to be triggering that a lot. Sweet. Yes. And we also have 4 copies of, I think, my favorite card in this deck, and I did it for my card of the week this week, Monastery Swiftspear. I like this card a lot. It's 1 mana, it has haste, it has prowess, and it's a 1/2. I really like this card a lot. It's good. I love it. So much fun to play with. Alright, so our 2 drops, we have 3 copies of Borderland Marauder, 2 mana for a 1/2, but it also gets +2/+0 whenever it attacks. So it's really good if you're attacking. If you're blocking, not so much, but if you're attacking, it's really good. And just 3 copies of that. Our last 4 creatures are War-Name Aspirant. Aspirant, I think is how you pronounce it. Someone fix me in the comments below, because I'm obviously really good at English. Yes. So 2 mana, 1 colorless and a red for 2/1 creatures. If you attacked with the creature, has the raid ability. If you attacked with a creature, it gets a +1/+1 counter, which is awesome. I like it. So basically it's 2 mana for a 3/2. If you have something where you attacked and swing. I mean, there's that caveat, but a 3/2 for 2 mana is pretty sweet. I like it a lot. Alright, so that's all our creatures. And like I said, they're all, like, everything in this deck is less than 2, except for 1 set of 4, and then 4 cards in the sideboard. But you'll see what they are, and it makes sense because there's only 17 land in here. You don't want anything more than, like, 3 in this deck at all. So for spells, I have 4 copies of Dragon Mantle, 1 red mana for an enchantment Aurora. It gives your creature fire breathing, so you can pay 1 red mana and give it +1/+0 until the end of the turn. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card, which is awesome, because drawing cards is really good, especially in this deck. Once your hand's empty, it's a bad thing, and being able to reload it with Dragon Mantle is awesome. I also include 4 copies of Hammerhand, 1 red mana for an enchantment, and when it enters the battlefield, a target creature can't block this turn, which is awesome, and enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and gains haste. So that's pretty awesome because, especially if you can get it out, you know, on a creature you've just played, it's pretty sweet. And then tapping their only blocker usually, you're really doing really well. It's good. I like it. I also include 4 copies of Titan Strength because Titan Strength is awesome. It's only 1 red mana. You give your creature +3/+1 until end of turn. +3/+1. You trigger Prowess with it if you have it out. You trigger Heroic if you're hitting your Akroan Crusader with it. And you get a Scry 1 on top of everything and put the land you don't need on the bottom. I like this card a lot, especially when I had a hand. I opened with a hand of like 3 copies of this and like 2 creatures. It was the best thing ever. So fun. Alright, I also include 4 copies of Lightning Strike because Lightning Strike is awesome. 2 mana to deal 3 damage to target creature or player. You can't. It's great. It is awesome. Fantastic. Definitely goes in red aggro decks because you need the removal. Or you need to do the last 3 points of damage. It works out perfectly. And my final 4 spells in the deck belong to the N15 awesome card that won me a couple of pre-releases, Stoke the Flames. It's 4 mana. Yeah, I know that's very expensive, especially when you're only running 17, but it has Convoke, so you can tap your creatures for that color mana, which is awesome, because you will have creatures, and dealing 4 damage to target creature or player is pretty sweet. Those Corsair crew fixes that you can't handle, you can now take care of with Stoke the Flames. Yay! I really like this card a lot. It helped a lot in my games and basically kept me above water in the ones that I was losing, which is just what I needed. It also takes care of Stormbreath Dragon and Butcher of the Horde, in case you were wondering. I got to do that multiple times. It's not fun to cast them on your creatures because you want to throw it at your opponent's face, but you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. So that's the entire 60 card deck. Sideboard, like I said, I changed a little bit of this, but it's mostly the same. 3 copies of Blinding Flare, 1 mana. It also has a strive cost of another 1 red mana, so you can pay as many red mana as you want, and any number of target creatures can't block that turn, which is fantastic against, green giant beastie decks that you don't want to have them block against you because then they'll kill your creatures, and so this works really, really well with that. I also include 4 copies of Magma Spray, 1 red mana to deal 2 damage to a creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. So that's pretty sweet. It doesn't work as well against the bigger creatures, but if you have some 2/2 small stuff you can pick off, mana dorks, things like that, it's pretty awesome. Blood-Soaked Champion, because instead of him going to the graveyard and being able to pay his raid cost, you can exile him. That's nice. I also have 4 copies of Searing Blood. I like this card a lot. 2 red mana, deal 2 damage to a target creature. If that creature would die, then you get to deal 3 damage to the creature's controller. So Rabble Master dies because it's only 2 toughness, so it dies to Searing Blood. And it was a lot of fun to use this on it. And then deal 3 damage to your opponent's face. Really loved it. It was good. And the final 4 cards were, I think, my favorite to be able to play. And this is slightly different from the deck list that I have below. That Arorsthrar, I'm sorry, used. It's Harnessed by Force. He uses Act of Treason. I'm using Harnessed by Force in case I get mana flooded out. That Strive ability really, really helps. So, 3 mana, colorless, 2 red. It also has a Strive for 2 colorless and a red mana, so you can target any number of creatures. You get to, gain control of that number of any number of creatures gain control of any number of creatures until end of turn, untap them, and they gain haste. Using this to take your opponent's Butcher of the Horde is awesome. Even if you die afterwards, it's just fun to say you can do it. Also using it to take the 14/14 Genesis Hydra your opponent has is fun. Even though you die the next turn anyways, it's still a lot of fun to do as a last-ditch effort. Let me tell you. Yes, I like playing with Harnessed by Force even though it didn't really help me very much. It was a lot of fun to be I'm going to steal your 14/14 Hydra. No, you can't. Yeah, I can. I can do that. And if you get enough mana to trigger it twice, it's even better. Yes, it is. But let me know what you think of this deck in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe for more.